Because you're tired of it. I mean, if you go into every situation claiming for the worst, and it turns out being good, you're going to be disappointed because it's good. Instead of, if you go into it expecting it to be good, and it ends up being bad, it's like a little mini Batman. It's not disappointing. Yeah. But you think you should choose something. The fact that you want to do it, you're values for it. Because if you can go back and look at it from an experience after experience but you're still sitting here today, you're still watching yourself. That shows that you're strong. That shows that you're committed. That shows that you have some sort of faith that really will come. Like change the wind in which you look at it. It's like a picture. I love that. Down sometimes that means the good times coming sooner than before. Yeah. Well, the big thing is, what's one bad thing about you that you like? Or sorry, what's one thing about you that you like? Yeah, just the first thing is, what's one thing that you like? So would you say that you are mistrusting the bad things? Is it more protecting you, or is it more so focusing on you really? If it's protecting you. But the thought process behind that question is, there wasn't a single good thing about yourself that you thought, you found something that had some quality, and you probably had a list of things that you that probably came to mind, and you weighted those bad things and decided this bad thing. So it's something like that, because if it's something that someone else has made bad, you don't want to change it because you think it's bad. But the thing is, you're not going to change it.
Good morning.
What would be a thing about yourself? I asked you
Back in winter for a little bit, it felt like we had spring breakup. But I lost an awful lot of snow at my house. For weeks we were worried that we were accumulating too much snow and we had to clear the roof. I even cleared some of the roof on mine, but then after a couple days of above 32-degree weather, a lot of it melted. So
it's not a learning.
it's kind of embarrassing, but I've got bare spots on my roof now wherever I try to clear it. But we're supposed to get more snow. I told you the wrong date. I said that her rendezvous was last weekend, but it's actually this coming weekend. So if anybody went to see the dog races, sorry about that. Wrong time for. We have dog races coming up. We're going to have to import the snow though in order to make it happen. Have any favorite parts of her rendezvous that you like, especially running with the reindeer or the outhouse races? Anybody ever see those? People decorate themselves as if they're an outhouse and they race down the street. That could be funny, I suppose.
Next thing I know, the carts never got picked up again. And it was 3 o'clock in the morning, I was just like,
today our focus will be on Aquinas, Thomas Nietzsche. So Thomas Aquinas, considered by many to be the most important medieval philosopher. And it makes sense because the Roman Catholic Church still bases their contemporary dogma on his work. And that seems odd because he's 1274 is when he died, so what the heck, why on earth would contemporary dogma still base on the work of a philosopher from that long back. And the main reason for it really is he merged Aristotle's work with Plato's work. And so when you're thinking, once Aristotle's philosophy was rediscovered, and everybody that got a hold of it and started reading it realized that this trumped, oops, I shouldn't use that word, was superior to Plato. And the church dogma was based on Plato. And so the problem, of course, is we have to change the dogma of the church, which you're not supposed to have to change that, right? And yet, at the same time, they had to, because it was so obvious that the philosopher, who was what they called Aristotle, wasn't like there were a bunch of them, they just had the philosopher, is Aristotle, was way superior to Plato. And I mentioned last class that Albertus Magnus, which just means Albert the Big, he was really big, and I think they meant that literally, he was fat. And by the way, Thomas was very fat as well. In fact, I read at one point, I don't know if it's true, but that at the place where he used to eat, they had a table that had like a half circle carved out of it so he could sit up against the table without, I don't know, sounds crazy. There's a whole, when you look at the life, especially on this Christian or Catholic site, you're going to see a lot of stories that are considered hagiography. Have you ever heard of that before? Hagiography is the lives of the saints. Let me find the word here. I'll share it with you. Whoops. So it's just the lives of the saints. I don't know how that comes out of it, but graphy just means writing, but I don't know where the hegi comes from, or hegia, whatever. Curious. But in any case, there's a lot of stuff in there that you think, that sounds like a bunch of crap. Because they're just trying to make each of these saints sound like they were absolutely so, wonderful, that they give you all kinds of stories that you think, no, wait a minute, there's no way that happened. For example, you could go there. I've actually had students that were in Italy touring and visited the place where this was supposed to have happened. And apparently what happened was Thomas, who was the second son in the family, was supposed to go into the seminary and become a monk. The oldest would take over the business, the family business, but the second son was supposed to go into the church and become an important member of the network of the bureaucracy that ran things. That was a very important part of the family's security as well. And as a result, the family had him in an abbey with his uncle, who was a Benedictine, and the monastery was one of the biggest and most important. But at a certain point, Thomas, he went into that monastery when he was 5 years old. But nonetheless, when he was something like 14 or so, there was a danger there because of the conflict between the Pope and the Emperor at the time, Holy Roman Emperor. Remember, that's the empire that was neither holy nor Roman nor an empire. That's just one of those silly things. But in any case, so he left and he went to a university, and at the university he came under the influence of the Dominicans, which was a brand new monastic order, whose job was primarily in teaching. That was their interest. And as a result of their friendship and everything, he decided he wanted to become a Dominican, which was an impoverished, no money kind of order. And so his parents were horrified that he was going to join that order instead of the rich Benedictines, which would have given him all sorts of influence and everything. And so they locked him up in a tower in their castle in Aquino to make sure that he didn't go with them. That almost sounds like Rapunzel, you know, with the let down your golden hair. So, they even tried to tempt him so that he wouldn't be able to join that order. And so the story was that they hired a prostitute and sent her to his room to tempt him. And as the story goes, he chased her away with a fiery brand. I don't know. A possible quiz question for today is: do you think stories like that, did that really happen? But you can visit the castle, and you can see the tower, where he was supposed to be locked in. So it's part of tours that people see when they go there. And one of the things is so I found it somewhere. Luther, Martin, Thomas. So this is also where he's been buried. It's Toulouse. So if you're familiar with Toulouse-Lautrec, Toulouse is a place, and that's the church where he's. That's, I guess, his actual corpse there with the glass. I don't. If you've ever been to Italy and Europe in general, a lot of the really old churches have bones and relics from dead people, the saints and things, scattered all around as decorations in the church. I remember going into one that was in Germany, and it was so funny because the name of the place was a Stift, which is a seminary. That's the name for a seminary in German, and the place was just absolutely full of what in English I would call stiffs. So I thought, that's a really appropriate name, a stiff, because there's dead people all decorated, and but the skull, you're looking at the skull and the bones and things, and they're all just lying there, dressed up in all their jewelry, either this way or that way, or even standing up, all throughout the church, and it's just kind of amazing that they did that. And of course you can see that was, I think the glass is new. I don't know if they had glass like that, but today of course they're behind glass. But I imagine at a certain point they were just putting these dead bodies all around the church, and you can imagine the stench of having all of these corpses rotting there. And it's not a surprise that one of the things they would invent is a means by perfuming the air. If you're familiar with the different incensors that they use, and of course they still do that. It's neat when the Pope Francis does a high mass now. He really can't stand up and participate, but they always very frequently during the mass bring him the censorium for him to relight and he blesses it, and they go off and they smell everybody up with all this stuff. It is sweet smelling if you've ever been in it. But I don't know if the Cancer Society has ever checked it to see if it's as carcinogen or not. So I'm not sure you really should breathe that stuff a lot. But what else is interesting? But so he's going to merge Aristotle's philosophy with Plato, and you think, wait a minute, the two of them are in conflict. How on earth can you do that? If you think of Plato, this is dead. No trash can? Well, I'll use it again then, even though it's dead. However, you think of Plato, you had kind of one form of existence he called matter, right? And the other, the ideas. So the two of them are totally separate. There's nothing in the ideas that consists of matter, and matter is corrupt as far as Plato is concerned. And notice, and something I've tried to emphasize, when you look at the different holy orders, the monks in the monasteries, the nuns, they mistreated their bodies terribly. And in fact, still today, when people criticize the Catholic Church and point out that, they will go and speak to millions of people. Pope John Paul II did this. He went and he spoke to like 2 million people, and he blessed them, and didn't bring money and things to try to help feed people. Instead, he talked to them about making sure that they understood that they were supposed to just suffer in this life. The whole point of being a body in this life is to suffer and make sure you behave properly. You avoid that attraction to physical pleasures and things to make your suffering even worse, I suppose, because that's going to build you a better life in heaven, right? If your soul is finally released from this prison house of the body, it will be, yay, I'm back in heaven now. And the worse you treat your body while you're here, the better off you'll be in heaven. That was like the theology, because it's based on the idea that this is horrible stuff. We belong here. We ought to get here and be in the ideas. That's where our soul is an idea. It's not physical, and we want to get back to this. I remember, you're not supposed to just kill yourself. That's an evil thing. The farmer would be very angry at his cow that decided to just flop over and die. It's not